two of the world's most powerful men are met in Alaska, Trump and Putin. Against all odds, and the positions of their countries, they seem to have forged a close personal alliance at the beginning of Trump's second presidency. However, all seems to have changed now, and it is partly a hunt for resources and votes that seems to have caused the flip. Trump's new, more hostile approach to Putin began almost immediately after he signed a resources for weapons deal with Ukraine's President Zelensky. Before that, Trump had asked, overtly and covertly, what he stood to gain from defending the Ukrainians. Now that a great deal of lithium, titanium and other rare earth elements are on the table, Trump's attitude to Zelensky's Russian counterpart has become more complex, if not cooler. Previously, the American premier seemed to see reflections of himself in Russian President Putin, chumming up to him to the exclusion of Ukrainians and other allies. But now, with the help of the minerals deal and long, cool periods of non-response from Putin, Trump's attitude appeared to have shifted in favor of the Ukrainians, though they were less than reliant on the man who had berated their president in view of the world. As Trump and Putin planned to meet again, the Ukrainians' views of the US premier grew dimmer still. The president's tendency to change policies on a whim is not conducive to repairing the deep cuts riven by war. And attempting to negotiate a peace deal without the presence of both sides is seen as somewhere between ridiculous and insulting. Trump's position that he won't be happy if a ceasefire isn't agreed might sound like a tough stance, but it actually makes the stance of the famous deal-maker weaker against one of the world's coldest heads of state. Ukrainian leader, Zelensky, who is not part of the talks, says that three-way talks are needed between Russia, the US and his own country to achieve peace. His reflection that, on the day of negotiations, the Russians are killing as well, does not bode well for a ceasefire. The choice of Alaska as the meeting venue speaks volumes about Trump's evolving strategy. Neither on American soil nor neutral territory, Alaska represents a middle ground that allows both leaders to claim they haven't compromised their positions. For Trump, it's still technically American territory, while for Putin, it's thousands of miles from Washington's power centers and carries historical significance as former Russian territory. The choice of Alaska as the meeting venue speaks volumes about Trump's evolving strategy. Neither on American soil nor neutral territory, Alaska represents a middle ground that allows both leaders to claim they haven't compromised their positions. For Trump, it's still technically American territory, while for Putin, it's thousands of miles from Washington's power centers and carries historical significance as former Russian territory. This geographical chess move reflects Trump's broader approach to the Ukraine crisis. No longer the Putin admirer of early 2025, Trump has discovered that there's more political capital to be gained from positioning himself as Ukraine's reluctant protector than Russia's Western champion. The transformation began in earnest after that contentious February meeting with Zelensky in the Oval Office, where Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance publicly dressed down the Ukrainian president before cameras rolled. The mineral resources agreement that emerged from that heated February encounter has fundamentally altered the dynamics. Ukraine's vast deposits of lithium, titanium, and rare earth elements suddenly made the country strategically invaluable to American interests. These materials are essential for everything from electric vehicle batteries to advanced military hardware commodities that could reduce American dependence on Chinese supplies. Trump's business instincts quickly grasped the implications. Where once he saw Ukraine as a costly burden inherited from previous administrations, he now views it as a potential goldmine. This shift from ideological alignment with Putin to transactional relationship with Ukraine represents classic Trump dealmaking. Follow the money, not the sentiment. The irony hasn't been lost on European observers. Trump, who spent years questioning NATO's value and America's commitment to European security, has become Ukraine's unlikely patron, not out of democratic principles, but because of what lies beneath Ukrainian soil. What do you think about this dramatic shift in allegiances? Are Trump's business instincts leading to better foreign policy outcomes, or is this transactional approach too unpredictable for global stability? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Putin's response to Trump's evolution has been telling. The Russian president, accustomed to Trump's previous deference, appears to have misread the new dynamic. His continued strikes on Ukrainian energy infrastructure and slow walking of diplomatic initiatives have only hardened Trump's position. Where Putin once enjoyed Trump's public praise and private accommodations, he now faces an American president threatening severe consequences and economic tariffs. This miscalculation stems from Putin's failure to recognize that Trump's loyalty was never ideological but always transactional. Once the transaction terms changed, with Ukraine offering tangible benefits while Russia offered only continued conflict, Putin found himself on the wrong side of Trump's cost-benefit analysis. The Russian president's traditional playbook of delay, denial, and diplomatic gamesmanship has backfired spectacularly. Each month of continued warfare costs him political capital with a president who values quick deals over prolonged negotiations. For Ukraine, Trump's newfound support comes with significant strings attached. Zelensky's government finds itself in the uncomfortable position of being defended by a leader who publicly humiliated their president and whose commitment could evaporate as quickly as it materialized. The February Oval Office meeting, where Trump and Vance repeatedly criticized Zelensky, at times drowning out his voice, remains a fresh wound in Ukrainian diplomatic memory. This uncertainty creates a three-way dynamic fraught with mistrust. Ukraine needs American support but cannot rely on Trump's consistency. Russia wants to exploit this uncertainty but has lost its privileged position with the American president. Meanwhile, Trump seeks to maximize American advantage while managing domestic political pressures. The exclusion of Zelensky from the Alaska summit epitomizes this toxic dynamic. How can meaningful progress occur when one of the three primary stakeholders is absent from negotiations? Ukrainian officials have repeatedly expressed frustration at being discussed rather than consulted, treated as a commodity rather than a sovereign nation. The stakes in Alaska. As the two presidents meet in Anchorage, the stakes extend far beyond Ukraine's borders. Success could establish a new framework for resolving the conflict, potentially ending Europe's largest war since World War II. Failure could lock in years of continued bloodshed and economic disruption. Trump enters the meeting with leverage he previously lacked. The resources deal gives him concrete American interests to defend, while Putin's military struggles in Ukraine have weakened Russia's negotiating position. However, Trump's unpredictability remains a wild card that could derail careful diplomatic preparations. For Putin, the Alaska meeting represents perhaps his last chance to achieve negotiated gains that his military cannot secure on the battlefield. The alternative, facing a newly hostile Trump administration with expanded support for Ukraine, could prove economically and politically catastrophic for Russia. The broader implications. This dramatic realignment of American-Russian-Ukrainian relations reveals the transactional nature of modern geopolitics. Traditional alliances and ideological affinities matter less than immediate interests and tangible benefits. Trump's pivot from Putin to Ukraine demonstrates how quickly international relationships can shift when underlying calculations change. The mineral resources at the heart of this transformation highlight the growing importance of critical materials in global competition. As nations race to secure supplies for green technology and advanced manufacturing, countries like Ukraine with significant reserves gain new strategic importance. The Alaska Summit, regardless of its immediate outcomes, marks a watershed moment in post-Cold War diplomacy. The personal chemistry between leaders, once considered crucial to international relations, has proven secondary to hard economic and strategic interests. As Trump and Putin sit across from each other in the last frontier, they're negotiating not just Ukraine's future, but the rules of engagement for 21st century great power competition. The outcome of this meeting could reshape global politics for years to come. Will Trump's transactional diplomacy succeed where traditional approaches have failed? Can Putin adapt to a world where his personal relationships with Western leaders no longer guarantee influence? And most importantly, will Ukraine finally get the lasting peace it desperately needs, or will it remain a pawn in this high-stakes game? What's your prediction for how this Alaska summit will end? Do you think Trump's new approach toward Putin will lead to a breakthrough, or are we heading for even more instability? Let us know your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth analysis of the world's most consequential political developments. Thanks for watching.